Hello everybody, my name is Echo and welcome to the first episode of the Reworking Splatoon series, a series where we'll be going over subs, specials, weapons, and maps that have been problematic within the Splatoon series and rework them to better fit within the games. Now, for today's episode, I want to take a look at the worst Splatoon 3 sub-weapon, Angle Shooter, which is a sub that's only ever gotten consistent buffs over the course of Splatoon 3 and has consistently stayed as the worst one. Now, just because it's the worst sub-weapon doesn't mean it's actually bad. It has some very good use cases on certain weapons, but that's the problem. It's only certain weapons. So, I aim to make it better for the rest of them. Now, one more thing before we start, I'm not calling it Angle Shooter for the rest of this video. I'm instead going to be calling it Line Marker, as that's what it's called in basically everything other than the English version of Splatoon, and it's a much better name. So, to understand what we need to rework about this sub, we need to go over its main problems. And those problems are it's hard to hit, it doesn't give much reward for hitting it, and the utility part of the utility sub basically doesn't exist. Now, I'm going to quickly speed past the difficulty to hit part because I don't really want to change it. The main reason for this is the buffs that I'll be giving to the reward might make this a bit too overpowered if we were to buff its hitbox. But what I will be changing is the tripwire, as the tripwire in the files is capable of having damage being added to it, but Nintendo just hasn't. So I will be buffing its damage from 0 to 20 damage. I also want to change the weird thing where when you throw it, it doesn't go towards your crosshair, but instead goes slightly below, as it's messed me up way too many times to count, and is something I never understood why was even in the game in the first place. These two buffs should hopefully make it so that people wanting to go over the tripwire will actually think twice before doing so, as well as making it easier to aim, especially when an enemy is above or below you. Now, as for the reward for hitting Line Marker, this is where the main bulk of this rework will be. As it currently stands, hitting someone with a Line Marker does 40 damage and marks them for 5 seconds. While I won't be buffing the damage from Line Marker, I will be buffing how long a direct marks you for. It will be going from 5 seconds to 8 seconds. This is to bring its marking capabilities in line with Point Sensor, while not being a Point Sensor Mark II. It is still very difficult to hit directs with this, and I do think that you should be rewarded with 8 seconds of marking rather than 5. However, I do want to reiterate this is only for directs. This will absolutely not affect the tripwire, meaning if you step over it, you will still be marked for the current 5 seconds. On top of this, I want to make its most unique feature more prominent within the weapon, and that's its ricochet. Now bear with me, because things are about to get spicy with this rework. For every time Line Marker ricochets off a wall, it will be getting a damage increase of 1.5 times, as well as a marking increase of 1 second. Now, as to prevent Rainmaker Cheese, I will be capping the effect at 3 ricochets. Any more than this, and it's basically doing as much damage as a direct from Trizuka, which does 220 damage. But ricocheting 3 times, which is what it's capped at, will actually allow you to one-shot someone, doing about 135 damage. Which I think is deserved considering how hard it is to ricochet 3 times, then hit someone. Now, to prevent this from being overpowered, you will not be getting these buffs if you ricochet off of the floor. This is to make it so that you don't just get a flat 20 damage increase, as well as 9 seconds of marking for basically nothing. As it stands, it's basically impossible to tell if these buffs would really affect Line Marker as a whole. I believe that they would, but I'm not someone who can mod the game to actually do this, so I really can't tell myself. But I do believe that it would be verging on overpowered, to the point where I'm going to be increasing its ink efficiency from 40 to 50, as I don't want it to be something that you can throw 2 of and then still be able to fire afterwards, because that genuinely seems like it'd be a little too powerful, especially if you did manage to kill 2 people with it. It might also need a revert on the increased velocity that it got quite a while back, but who knows. These are buffs that would give it a very, very unique place within the lineup of sub-weapons, and would make it about as unique as Squid Beacons, which to me are probably the most unique sub-weapon. On top of this, it would also be the perfect sub-weapon for montages, which is an indirect buff, I suppose. Overall, I would love to see these buffs in-game, because Line Marker as it stands is basically completely outclassed by both Burst Bomb for the chip damage, as well as Point Sensor for the whole marking capability, so giving it something as unique as this would definitely make it stand out from those 2. Now, the tripwire buff alone probably would do this too, but I just wanted to get a little crazy with this thing. As personally, I love the way that Line Marker is designed, it's just not useful. But with these buffs, I do believe it'd be useful on any weapon that you give it to. maybe not for the combo potential, but really, you don't need it when you have montage potential, right? Now, I did say that I would give it something in the utility aspect of things rather than just giving it all reward, and that utility would be painting its feet when you throw it, the same way that Torpedo does. If you don't know, when you throw a torpedo, no matter what direction you throw it in, it will always paint the feet below you. And I want to bring this very unique feature to this as well. This will help it a decent amount, but you could always just throw it at your feet beforehand and paint decently well, so I'm not too sure how much it would help, but it's nice to have, I suppose. Anyway, that's all for my rework. If you liked it, thanks. This is an idea I've had for quite a while, ever since I first used line marker, and I'm glad I'm finally able to make a video talking about it. If you have any idea on what I should rework next, please let me know in the comments. And while I'm on the topic of comments, thank you all for the support in my previous video. It was really nice waking up and just seeing all of the comments, and I just have to say thank you. When it comes to my next video, I will be making a follow-up to my Dooley's Kits video with Brilla Kits. It was actually a comment that suggested that, and I think it would be a pretty good idea. Anyway, outside of that, thank you all so much for watching once again, and I'll see you all in the next one.